it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Zooming in on the topic of overwhelm, the topic of anxiety, the topic of depression, and the sort of negative emotions and feeling, and really just the disempowered experience after encountering narcissistic abuse, psychopathic abuse, or being in the company of these individuals. And first I would like to really just kind of break down very quickly the narcissist tactics, where they will gaslight, depersonalize, and utilize cognitive dissonance as tools and mechanisms to control, manipulate, and keep under subjugation, under the power of their narcissistic personality. Why do they do this? The narcissist will engage in cognitive dissonance, depersonalization. In other words, making you question your reality, make you experience tremendous self-doubt and discomfort, the sort of negative validation, never giving you really humane treatment, never mirroring back to you your positive qualities, your accomplishments, your endeavors, the things that you are truly proud of, the true strides you've made in your life. They're not giving life to those. They're not giving validation to those. They're not able to give credence to those. In fact, they will skate right over them to the point where it's almost laughable, the point that they will go to great lengths not to acknowledge you for really all that you've done, who that you are, the changes that you've made in your life. They will give no airtime to that, in essence, because they, one, have an inflated sense of self-interest. The narcissist and the psychopath have such an inflated self-interest to them that they will pursue this at all costs. And when I mean pursue this, means that they will activate that and reinforce that in every interaction and in every endeavor in their life, so that they are superior, and everyone else, especially those who they deem victims, to remain locked into that position. So the depersonalization, the cognitive dissonance, is manifested in a number of ways, where they pretend one thing but do another. They might say we're a family, but they act quite differently. They might say that they love you, but their behavior is very contrary to that. They might be a business associate who's going to take care of one thing and manage something, and they do not follow through. So this cognitive dissonance is a very sort of lethal and very toxic component to the treatment of a narcissist with the people in their life. And realize that the overwhelm that one feels, the anxiety, the depression, is a direct result of this manipulation tactic. So the manipulation tactic is designed for them to keep control of you and keep you in that role of victim, that identity of being victimized, that identity of being less than, because it's able to perpetuate their illusion and their superior position, so they don't have to deal with certain truths, certain reality in their life. Realize a couple of things: that the narcissist is extremely terrified of being vulnerable. The narcissist is extremely insecure and uncomfortable with dealing with certain realities in life, i.e. that they have certain limitations, that they might be held responsible or accountable for certain activities, which they, because of their superior status that they've been feeding for a number of years, they feel unequipped, they feel unqualified to handle certain truths, certain emotions, certain positions. So they will, in essence, keep people scapegoated and victimized so that they can be the one who handles the brunt of all the responsibility, the accountability, and for really owning all the truth and the lies which they have basically covered up. So they want to perpetuate that cycle, and it is really done on a relentless basis. But realize that they will perpetuate that overwhelm in the victim so that they can keep one locked into a victim status, and will keep them in the superior, perfect, I am untouchable, I am unaccountable, I am blameless position. And they will do this to the point where it's almost laughable. So a couple key things in this feeling of overwhelm that I would like to help my viewers release. And that is, for one, realize that the narcissist is employing this sort of outpouring of hostility to keep you down. And once you can label it and understand it for what it is, it's a manipulation tactic. So when it's occurring, one then says, aha, I know better. This is a manipulation tactic. And once you are able to identify what it is, you are able to not just run away from it, you're able to acknowledge it internally. You don't say, oh, you're a manipulation tactic. You don't confront the narcissist because they don't feel that they've done anything wrong. They're just going to perpetuate their narcissistic agenda. So realize that this overwhelm, this feeling of depression, this feeling of anxiety can then be lessened once you realize that you have your truth. Once you are able to let go of receiving all those negative transfer of energy, once you're able to stop being that role. And I know that this is complicated, but stay with me on it because it's very important, it's crucial, and it's very powerful. And I think it will help unlock a lot of that depression and anxiety and feeling of overwhelm. Because once you can disengage from that role of being a victim and saying, no more, that is not me. I'm no longer believing those lies and being scapegoated for everything. That is incorrect. Those are essentially lies. You're feeding me and perpetuating a basic in reality. And a lot of people experience it so depersonalized that it almost feels psychotic, or it feels so depersonalized that they're able to see that this person is coming from a very unreal place. So once you're able to identify that strictly as a manipulation tactic for all that it is, that is all it is, that is all it is. So once you're able to identify this, you can then say, okay, I understand what is coming at me now. Interesting. Very interesting. Rather than being frustrated, rather than being overwhelmed, rather than being depressed about it, rather than being anxious about it, say, aha, you know what? My knowledge and my wisdom and my experience is now serving me now. I'm now able to tap into that and say, aha, that is essentially a manipulation tactic. Very interesting. So knowing that to be the case, knowing it to just be a tactic, knowing it to be a ploy, you then, with that acknowledgement, you are able to realize that in essence does not have power over you. That person does not have power over you. You have power and dominion over yourself. First in your perception and understanding of what is going on. Once you're able to see it with your own eyes, hear it with your own ears, feel it with your own heart, and feel it with your own gut, which is connection to really your instinct and your personal power, is derived from that vagus nerve, which connects all the way down through the spine, wraps around your hip, and lands in your abdomen, which is your solar plexus. It's your core. It is your personal core. It is the seat of your instinct, intuition, and really your self-preservation. Once you're able to give validity and reality to that, and acknowledging that that is just a ploy and a tactic designed to keep me stuck in that victimization role, which I am now letting go of. That is not my true role. That is not my identity. That is the lie, and I am now living my reality, which is my identity, which is my empowerment. This is where my power comes from. And so once you can let go of that and then use the tools that we discuss here on the channel in terms of not feeding into that overwhelm, not being in a position where you're underneath them and having to explain and justify yourself for every decision that you've made. In other words, it's keeping, when someone is giving you that overwhelm, anxiety and depression, and questioning you, doubting you, making you explain and justify yourself, keeping you belittled, keeping you insulted, keeping you, in kind of a scornful and shameful demeanor. They refer to you as kind of like, and the victim. In other words, the scapegoat. That is their ploy and tactic. So once you acknowledge that as what it is, and you realize that that is not your true identity, that is the identity that they're giving you, which is not truth. So you are now beginning to realize that you learn and live your truth, which is your true perception, where you actually know better than what this narcissist is putting you through. And you're able to see that they're actually perpetuating a cycle which you can disengage from, you can walk away from. You have free will not to engage in. So how do we do this? One, through not feeding into that whole cycle. It is not coming from that victim standpoint anymore. It is not coming from a victim identity anymore. You're coming from an empowered identity. You're coming from an identity of wisdom. You're coming from an identity of actually knowing people and their behavior. You're actually coming from an identity now where you have knowledge applied. So knowledge is great, but knowledge applied is power. So once you realize that it's the tactic for what it is, and you're able to then realize that you have a boundary and you have actual perception of your own, and are able to not perpetuate that cycle and not feed in, not give in. Don't enter wimp junction. I call basically that's wimp junction. When you cave into them and then start to fight and maintain that same conflict with them, and start the battling and explaining and justifying yourself, and yes, I did this and I did that, and you're still perpetuating that same conflict. You're still remaining in that victim status. Once you stop and you no longer feed into that, you are able to own your power and not explain and justify yourself. That is not required. They have made you feel that you have to constantly explain and justify yourself. Oh, is that new? Oh, where did you get this? Constantly trying to get under your skin and have you explain and justify why the fact that you actually went grocery shopping, or why the fact that you actually got a book for yourself, or why did you get X and Y food for yourself. I mean, the narcissist and the psychopath will question and doubt every single basic need that you fulfill for yourself. So knowing that it's almost laughable that they want to try to attack these very basic things which you have for yourself and dismantle it, you no longer feed into that cycle, and you instead pull your lever back. You disengage from them. You no longer put up a conflict consciousness and respond to that. And instead, you maintain your personal power. You do not engage in explaining and justifying yourself. You do not answer those questions. You instead learn to ask the questions. Because the answers that we get in life, the things that we manifest in life, are a direct result of the questions that we ask. And it's a direct result of that which we focus on. So once you are able to pull your power back into yourself, which you absolutely positively have dominion over, you have free will. If you were to walk across the room 12 paces right now, you have dominion over yourself. If you're able to, lift your arm and make a fist, that is your free will. So you actually have dominion, you actually have control. If you were to do 10 jumping jacks right now and say, I am powerful, and do those 10 jumping jacks and say, I am powerful, I am powerful, I am powerful, and deep breathe that, you will realize and start to experience that feeling of personal empowerment. And realize that as you say that, you then fill your body with that emotion. And you have to absolutely positively keep focus on that, because all the negative impact of the narcissist, of the psychopath, it is just basically clutter in the air, which you're no longer attending to. You're no longer focusing on. You're not giving life to those erroneous comments, the pathological lies. Why give life to a lie? Why feed their lies by perpetuating that conflict cycle? Why not pull back and let that go and let them proceed on, and then you maintain focus on what you want to do, have, become, and focus on that. Those are your reality. That is what you give life to. That ignited spark within you is your true reality. And if they're not part of it, if they can't reflect that because they're narcissistic and they're not able, then let them go. Realize that that is what they are, and instead surround yourself with people who remind you and acknowledge you for who you are. Engage in activities and circles of influence where that fire is ignited and turned into a bonfire in a roaring cacophony of positive experience in life. All the joy, happiness, and bliss which you are entitled to, which you believe in, which you love about life and yourself and those people around you. That is what you have to breathe life into, and let the pathological lies fall away for the very things that they are, which are that, pathological lies and toxicity. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussions, and support.